will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Karen Mickey Scott. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, to my parents, Marvin and Dorothy Cooper. And I am educated by profession. I was basically a newlywed because I had gotten married the previous year and I was teaching. And I taught on the south side of Chicago. Robert Taylor Holmes was where I taught.
I was a young man with a young family. I was working for the CTA as a bus operator at the time. I had a good job. Jobs were kind of plentiful then, back in 1968. Pretty good life, pretty decent life. What I would consider middle class. I was able to provide for my family, take care of my kids.
The accomplishments that we had, the pride that we had, we didn't have a lot, but we had pride, and we had ambition, and we had drive, and we saw where it was necessary for us to get schooling so that we could make something of ourselves. You know, most of us are first generation college graduates. We had black businesses. You know, I could go up and down 47th Street. Most of those businesses were owned by black people.
It was close to 3:15 in the afternoon, and they made an announcement in school. And I left the school, and I was actually shocked because as soon as I walked out of the door, I saw my father's car. And he had left work to come and pick me up and take me home, because normally I would just get on the bus and come home on the bus. But that stood out because he stopped everything he was doing to make sure I was safe.
Good evening. Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. Police have issued an all-points bulletin for a well-dressed young white man seen running from the scene. Officers also reportedly chased and fired on a radio-equipped car containing 2 white men. Dr. King was standing on the balcony of a second-floor hotel room tonight when, according to a companion, a shot was fired from across the street. In the friend's words, the bullet exploded in his face.
When white America killed Dr. King last night, she opened the eyes for every black man in this country. When white America got rid of Marcus Garvey, she did it and she said he was an extremist. He was crazy. When they got rid of Brother Malcolm X, they said he was preaching hate. He deserved what he got. But when they got rid of Brother Martin Luther King, they had absolutely no reason to do so. He was the one man in our race who was trying to teach our people to have love, compassion, and mercy for what white people had done. When white America killed Dr. King last night, she declared war on us.
In the 1960s, Roosevelt Road was considered the business strip for the west side of Chicago. Here in North Lawndale, there were stores and shops and businesses all along the street. But April 5th, 1968, the day after Martin Luther King was slain, this strip just went up in flames. People who remember it talk about the smoke, they talk about the constant sirens that they heard, they talk about the fire trucks, the sounds of the fire trucks that went on for hours, and that the looting and the rioting went on for days.
We were all very sad. It was almost like you lost a family member. And just to hear that news, you just couldn't believe it. You could not believe it. It was like it was a dream, and you think you believed in yourself that you would wake up from this dream and it wouldn't be so. Because our hopes and our dreams and all of the things that he talked about were so relevant to our lives. And we were praying that maybe we didn't like everything that he did, but we liked his method. We knew that was the only way for us to make strides in Chicago.
I was ticked off, but I couldn't say what. I couldn't find out, what happened, what caused it.
The next day I was working for CTA and in a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of anger. Sadly to say, my route was predominantly Caucasians that I was picking up every day. But I had to hold that anger inside, be professional. But I truly have to say I wanted to hurt somebody because Dr. King was like a part of my family. He had sacrificed so much for us as a people. And it still bothers me to this day.
And by early afternoon Friday, the residents of the west side of Chicago had taken to the streets. The looting began almost immediately, and the outnumbered police could do little but watch.
Yeah, I was on the west side. They took us from the south side over to the west side. Black folks were just terrorizing the west side. And what had happened was they broke out windows and different things, and they didn't have to do that.
A carnival-like atmosphere prevailed all afternoon and into the night. The looters claimed it was simply an expression of their righteous indignation over King's assassination. Even before the fires began, Chicago officials had requested help from the Illinois National Guard, but it would be hours before the first troops arrived.
I can understand the anger and frustration, but I've never been able to understand taking that type of anger out on your own people, on your own neighborhood, group, community, burning down your homes, right? And I've never been able to justify that in any ways or means.
That's not going to solve no problem. And the main thing, we only destroying the stuff that was doing us some good. If we step to the streets, when we come to shopping and whatever, we still have to go in the neighborhood, and we destroying our neighborhood, but that didn't solve no problem.
I was borrowed from the south side. I went over there to be over there for that incident, and I was working with a white sergeant, and in fact, I think I was working with all three of them in the car, except me, were white police. And I'm always joking, so they asked the white policeman, said, "Troy, if they attack this car, what you gonna do?" I said, "I don't know what y'all gonna do, but I'm gonna take off my shirt and say, I'm enjoying the people out there."
By 4 o'clock, the stores were looted, and 2 miles of Madison Street, from Western Avenue to Pulaski Road, were burning.
There was great fear. Fear that it may come to the south side where we were. And we were so disappointed, so disappointed. A man of peace, a man who that spoke about love and spoke about the dream. And here it just seemed as if the people just decided, well, we don't want that dream. We want another dream, that is to destroy. And all he was doing was trying to build up.
As night came, the police concentrated their efforts on trying to protect the rest of the city from the rioters and left the fire department to fend for itself. By dark, the riots had spread south to West Roosevelt Road, leaving fires burning out of control from Kedzie to Pulaski. The firefighters had been dodging rocks and bottles all day, but as night wore on, the shooting began. The National Guard began to arrive Friday evening and were issued ammunition. By Saturday morning, the National Guard was on the street in force. While supporting the police, the Guard exchanged shots with snipers on the upper floors of the Cabrini Green housing project. The police finally rushed the building and made several arrests to end the shooting. On April 7th, Palm Sunday, the regular army took up positions and the riot ended. The combination of 11,000 police, 7,000 National Guardsmen, and 5,000 federal troops finally brought peace to the burned-out West Chicago ghetto. At least 10 lives had been lost, 500 people injured, and 3,000 arrests made during the 3 days of rioting. The total property losses exceeded $10 million.
He was a man that everybody admired. He was a man that spoke well, made great speeches. But what stood out the most was he really seemed to care about people, bringing people together. He seemed to care about what he was talking about. And that came across a lot more than anything else.
All I can remember when he came to Chicago and he talked about how segregated this city was and how, how the people, the most segregated city he'd ever been in. That was saying something. And Chicago was segregated. You had your pockets, and that's where you maintained your everything. You shopped there, you carried on businesses there, whatever you had to do, you did it there. So we didn't venture very far from where our home base was. And to see them tear up like that, it just tore your heart out. It really did. I mean, I don't know really what, I can understand their frustration because it's like a dream that you waited for a long, long time. And even today, the dream is still not fulfilled.